Reconvening the budget meeting after our short break, and we are on tap to hear from Brian Nava, the county, let me get back to this. Brian Nava, the county treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Good morning, Budget Committee members, the Board of County Commissioners, County Administration, and staff. My name is Brian Nava, and I am the Clackamas County Treasurer. With me is our Deputy Treasurer, Nancy Wilson, and our Chief Audit Executive, Jody Cochran. I'd like to first acknowledge my colleagues. Without the work of them and the wonderful colleagues we have in our office, our mission and the Clackamas County's mission cannot be achieved. I'd also like to thank the budget staff for all their help. Jan's our primary contact, but info from the entire budget staff, including Sandra, has been great as well. I thought I'd have the easiest presentation, and I just watched the law library one, so I think I got aced out there. We had no gap in our services as a result of the pandemic, and we were back in the office with our doors open as soon as it was safe to do so. The Herculean effort performed by my staff and the rest of my colleagues throughout the county was nothing short of incredible. As always, I'm extremely excited whenever anyone asks me to talk about the Treasurer's Office in whatever capacity. As I know a significant portion of the Budget Committee has experience or is an accountant, you know it's not very often that accountants are actually asked to talk about accounting. The mission of our office is to provide active investment, accounting, management, distribution, and safeguarding of the county's cash assets. We also provide independent audit services to the departments, offices, and the public we serve. As Gary mentioned yesterday, the county has a budget of over $1 billion. The tax assessor's office also collects or is collecting over $962 million to be distributed by the treasurer's office to the over 130 taxing districts. All funds collected by the county are held safely and securely by the treasurer's office until they are ready for distribution. This was our first year of performance Clackamas for the treasurer's office. Our budget and goals align with and support all of the county's strategic priorities, but especially the county's goal of building public trust through good government. Per the board's updated strategic plan, public trust is the currency of good government. The treasurer's office is actually ensuring the safety of the taxpayers and the county's currency, while also helping ensure funds are spent efficiently and effectively. Next slide, please. So there were many major accomplishments for our small but mighty office. I have to continue to highlight the resiliency and fortitude of staff in my office and throughout the county. We worked tirelessly with county departments and offices to set up electronic and remote payment processing options. This work continues today throughout the county. This also included outreach to reduce the amount of paper checks issued by the county. We implemented Performance Clackamas within the Treasurer's Office this year. We safely and securely performed the timely tax distribution to the over 130 taxing districts of Clackamas County. We set up a process to receive and record ACH and EFT reoccurring transactions to the county. We implemented a macro deposit summary to efficiently and effectively record cash at the county. We began cash handling training to personnel throughout the county, and God willing, hopefully we can be able to start performing that training again in person soon. We caught and rejected fraudulent checks written by those fraudsters out there, and we recently worked with our vendor on credit card optimization techniques to help reduce fees for the public and for the county. Next slide. Related to internal audit, we updated membership on the Internal Audit Oversight Committee to include public members and another member of the Board of County Commissioners in line with best practices. Thank you to the chair and vice chair of the Board of County Commissioners for your participation on this committee. Your input has been invaluable and very much appreciated. We established a survey to our audit customers to get feedback on how we're doing. I'll go into this in a little more detail later in the presentation, but thanks to the assistance and commitment of the board and county administration, we are set to hire, and our senior internal auditor is set to start July 1st, 2021. We've investigated 12 reports to the county's Good Government Hotline this fiscal year of fraud, waste, and abuse through April of 2021. We established the internal audit function in county code, and we adjusted our audit plan to be responsive to COVID and the other unexpected disasters the county experienced. And lastly, we provided consulting services to departments and offices throughout the county. Next slide. So I understand from talking with Sandra that the note 1 and note 2 comments that get in there, they're pretty basic. Note 1 is just referencing that that this was our first year of performance Clackamas, so we didn't have any data available for that 19-20 year. And then note 2 is just referencing the not apply related to the fact that this was an output measure, so we didn't have a target. It was just more providing information related to our performance clackamas information. In general, the Treasurer's Office, Treasury line of business, is meeting or exceeding our performance clackamas goals. As most of our functions are required by state statute or the Oregon Constitution, we have little room for noncompliance. For example, we would not want the public's money to be adequately collateralized only 75% of the time, or you wouldn't want tax distributions to be distributed on time, completely and accurately, only 90% of the time. We achieve 100% compliance, and we pride ourselves on achieving that year after year after year. Next slide. And as expected, Jody is doing fantastic work. We are hitting every benchmark we've set and may issue an unheard of 5 internal audit reports this fiscal year. In conjunction with still administering the county's good government hotline, providing consultant services, and attending or being a part of the various committee meetings throughout the county. It's really incredible work coming out of our internal audit function. Next slide. So as I said, we are small but mighty. Our budget is approximately $1.3 million, which is the smallest of the general funded budgets in the county. As I mentioned before, almost everything we do is mandated by the Oregon Constitution, Oregon revised statutes, and/or county code. Currently, we are meeting or exceeding all our performance clackamas targets, and we're looking forward to working on these updates with the performance clackamas team in the near future. Next slide. Approximately 75% of our revenue comes from the general fund, while 25% comes from charges for services. Approximately 80% of our costs are associated with personnel services, while approximately 20% of our costs are for materials and services and allocated costs. Next slide. The most significant change from year to year in our office has generally been staffing. We had hoped to hire a new senior internal auditor in June of this fiscal year, but she is scheduled to start, like I mentioned, July 1st, 2021. So we really, for the end of this fiscal year, really just have 6 people. That was not learned until just last week when we signed her on board, so after we submitted this information to the budget team. Next slide. Again, in a small budget like ours, I don't know that this sheet shows a whole heck of a lot more information other than pointing out related to our staffing from this year to the next fiscal year. Next slide. Okay, so I've danced around this a little bit throughout this presentation, but I want to take a second and send a huge shout out to County Administrator Schmidt and the Board of County Commissioners. Chair Smith, Commissioner Savas, Commissioner Schrader, you were here to start the internal audit function in 2015. You guys passed that. You made a commitment to this county to help ensure the public interests are protected and ensure the public can engage with an accountable, high-performing, and transparent local government. You reaffirmed that commitment in the March 2021 strategic plan update by stating, "We will listen, be accountable, and deliver what we promise." I want to thank the entire board for your continued commitment to building public trust through good government. Commissioner Savas, I know you're online. I know you've continued to beat the drum of accountability by helping provide resources to a greatly understaffed internal audit function. This is a huge step for the county, and I want to commend the county and the board for its participation and commitment. It cannot be undersold that you are not only putting your money where your mouth is, but also putting your valuable and finite amount of time there too. Commissioner Schrader, you probably recall you were the first member of the Board of County Commissioners to serve on the Internal Audit Oversight Committee. And now Chair Smith and Commissioner Savas, you currently serve on the Internal Audit Oversight Committee. Your time is valuable, and we value your commitment to that committee a lot. We look forward to having all commissioners serve on the Internal Audit Oversight Committee to see and provide input on all the great work we are doing with the internal audit function to achieve the county's strategic plan results. Next slide. So I thank you again for your time today. I welcome any questions you may have, and more than anything else, I look forward to grabbing a cup of coffee with everyone in person soon. Tom, I think we scheduled it last June when we thought COVID would be over. Boy, our face is a little red with that. In closing, stay positive, test negative, go Clackamas County.
Thank you so much. First, we have Chair Smith and then Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Brian Nava, for your uplifting and fun report. Earlier, I mentioned the importance of our employees in H3S, but you really do need to be commended, because if your folks hadn't shown up and did their due diligence with the monies, many county employees would not have received their paychecks. And while many of our county employees were working remotely and in different locations, you folks really made sure that the money was guarded and protected and taken care of, and I can't think of really a greater public service to that. I also think the autonomy of your office as a duly independently elected official is one of the most important things that you can go forward on. Like I said, you're an independently elected office, the safety and the keeper of all of the county's money, and you need to remain the captains of your own ship and resist any efforts from any departments who wish to unduly influence your duties as prescribed under the Oregon Constitution and the Oregon Revised Statutes. Because of any department in Clackamas County, you have that charge. And with the addition of Jody Cochran as our auditor, I'm so pleased with what you do and how your adherence to law. Nancy, your investment strategies in keeping with the law, what we can invest in with our money, what we can't, how we transfer money. I mean, my gosh, that's just a full-time job right there. I really have grown appreciation to all the work you do. And you know, people look at accountants, oh, that's kind of a boring profession, but you know what? You're kind of running the show. I mean, accountants are kind of like the sexy people anymore. So just want to say that going forward, I'm very pleased with this department, and that's all the comments I have.
Thank you very much. We have Commissioner Fisher, and then Commissioner Scholl, and then Christina.
Yeah, thank you for being here, and really echo what Chair Smith says about all the appreciation that we have for the work that you do. I'm interested in...
Commissioner Fisher, be sure to speak into the microphone.
Thank you, Chair Parks.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the major accomplishments, and you talk about the under Good Government Hotline investigated 12 reports from July 20th. So I'm just curious if you can give a little more detail about that. I'm curious how you conduct those, because you don't have very large staff and not a large budget. Some of my thoughts are those internal hotlines from people within the county? Are there ever people from outside the county that call the hotline? And who actually does the work to do the investigations?
Right, no, appreciate the question. So you're looking at the two staff that do the work right here. And we do, I will say as kind of a preview, we do plan to come this summer in front of the board as well, and the internal audit line of business, and present detailed information related to the function as well as the hotline. But just the brief overview. So we contract out the hotline provider, so they go through a portal. This helps ensure the safety and security of the person making the report so that they can remain 100% anonymous. That then gets distributed to the Fraud Hotline Committee, which consists of myself, Jody, County Administrator Schmidt, Martine Koblenz, Stephen Madcore, and Evelyn Minor-Lawrence. And that really is an effort to make sure that if somebody reported the fraud hotline that Brian Nava is stealing cash, then it would, that portal that we go through would make sure that it doesn't go to me, and it would go to the rest of the committee to triage and investigate. So like I said, Jody and I are the main, are the only two, I should say, not main, staff on that committee. So we would triage the information as it came in, and then perform an investigation as determined necessary based on that triage. Currently, right now, most of the information comes from inside the county, so the county employees and volunteers. Actually, one of the major efforts we did this year, with the help of PGA and HR, County Council, and all the other departments, if you go on the intranet and it's how to, and then under that it's how to report a concern, we wanted to make it really easy for employees to say, and this is my, the joke that I'm saying is the vanilla ice thing. If you got a problem, you'll all solve it. Nobody's laughing. It wasn't that funny even when I said it before either. So it outlines all the different places that if an employee is having an issue, if you're having an HR concern, you're having a HIPAA concern, or a fraud, waste, and abuse concern, you can click right there, and it'll take you right to that portal to do that reporting. And so, like I said, in the summer, I have some information here too related to just the 12, but as you remember, a former commissioner, we actually outlined what was unresolved, not substantiated, and substantiated. I'm happy to report still all the reports that come through that have been substantiated. There's been adequate resolution related to those substantiated calls. That continues, and that's really under the direction of management, and I'm pointing at County Administrator Schmidt. He's taken every call very seriously, and so when it gets substantiated, and it's not always fraud, waste, and abuse, sometimes something substantiated related to just an error or claim, he works with us and the department to make sure that we're putting in appropriate controls or just putting in appropriate measures to resolve those issues. So, and that's, since I came on in 2015 till now, we've had that same level of resolution. So, did I answer all your questions?
Yeah, no,
Okay,
I
perfect.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you. I like to highlight the work because it's so important as you began your presentation on public trust in government. And that's a very important component. So thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Scholl, and then Christina.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Nava and Treasury personnel. I see that your charges, fees, license, permits, fines, assessments are down about 201,000 since last year, and you don't project them to come up very much in the next year. And I also see that you intend to do an internal audit policy procedure, and you have one new auditor. My question is, the current funding, how often are you going to be able to get around to each of the departments in the county for that internal audit? In other words, with the funds you have now and what's projected and your personnel, how often will you be able to get to each department to check on them?
Right, Commissioner Scholl, that's a great question. So every year, internal audit does a risk assessment of the entire county, and it follows best practices, IIA, Institute of International Auditing Standards. As part of that risk assessment, that develops our audit plan. It then goes to the Internal Audit Oversight Committee for approval. The addition of the senior internal audit staff is going to help immensely to get more audits out the door and get around to the departments throughout the county. I can't estimate currently right now because part of it is, as an example, when the internal audit function just started, we do a risk-based approach. So we did 2 or 3 audits over DTD. So it wasn't really let's try and hit every department. It was, where's the risk? Where do we need to audit? So it's not really more of a, hey, make sure we audit everybody. It's really getting into those interviews, which Jody will have one with you this year as well. She interviews all Board of County Commissioners, almost all department directors, county administration, as well as senior level staff and management. And so that really guides and directs the audits that we do. So I can't give you a clear estimate on when we'd get to every department just because of the approach we take to do the audit plan. However, it is a factor in that if you've already been audited, it reduces your risk so that we don't continue to audit the same department or same function again as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Christina?
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, thank you. Brian Nava, thank you so much for all your good work, and Jody as well, and Nancy. Good to see you all this morning. Just want to just take into consideration that 10 years ago, we did not have an independent internal auditor, and we have added one. So I want to just thank all the commissioners, past and present, that have supported that along the way. And when I brought that to the commission a long time ago, I pointed out some of our neighboring jurisdictions that they had their own internal auditing office and staff. And only as a reminder, I'm going to ask Brian just to speak to that momentarily. But before I say that, I want to say that in light of, I think this is also one of those departments or purposes or functions that is fiscally beneficial, and I believe has a return on investment for every penny spent in that regard. So when it comes to capacity, I appreciate to hear that, we're going to be looking July 1 to seek out and advertise for that new position for the second auditor in your office, which is great. Good to hear that. But just to give everyone a context of where we are, where we have been, and where we also need to be. But Brian, can you speak to basically like Multnomah County or Washington County, how many auditors they have in their office, in their independent internal auditor office?
Absolutely, Commissioner Savas. So actually, the data's a little bit dated because we did perform this exercise a little while ago. So City of Portland, 9 FTE, Clackamas County, 1, Clark County, 3, Deschutes County, 1, Jackson County, 3, Lane County, 1, Metro, 6, Multnomah, 9, Washington County, 4. And one slight clarification, we have hired a senior internal auditor that's starting July 1st, 2021, and that was through the great work of this board and County Administrator Schmidt as well to get that recruitment process out and to get that position filled. So yeah, so when I say, and I know other departments feel this as well in terms of being understaffed, I hope those numbers, and I appreciate the question, Commissioner Savas, provide a little color to our staffing and size. And I don't think, we also have information related to their budget and size and personnel and FTE and things like that throughout that whole county. But I think you guys can probably tell from the size of what Clackamas County is compared to the other ones that we're staffing of 2 is a great increase, but still puts us a little bit behind the 8 ball on that.
Yeah, and I do thank you for that. I do want to appreciate the administrator's support for seeking out that position, adding that. And I don't, my goal not to mention that is not necessarily to guilt anyone that we need to move faster and add a lot more staff suddenly. I know we need to just move into that very slowly, and we're getting there. I appreciate that, but taking into consideration Commissioner Scholl's question, how often can we look at these other departments? The more staff we have, the more thorough we can be, and probably the more frequent we can look at those and other issues as well that need some attention. So we'll take it bit by bit. We're working in a very tight, constrained financial environment. I recognize that. I want to just, again, thank everyone for their support to get us where we are today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. We now have Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I'm just going to be real quick, Brian. It's a pleasure to work with you, and you run a great department, and I'm so glad you're here. Thanks
Likewise.
for everything.
Thanks,
Thank you, Commissioner. I see no other questions, no cards, no lights on, whatever. Brian, thank you very much for a very good report, and thank you for being a good guardian to the county's finances and the taxpayers' monies. We very much appreciate it. So, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair. Thanks, guys.